Rose gets real, Avery gets angry, and David gets dumb. Coming up on the Fraudcast.
In the States or abroad, no one's safe from the talkers of fraud. In the States or abroad, no one's safe from the talkers of fraud.
The following goes beyond the show and beyond the gram to bring you all the fraud that's fit to be uncovered. This is the Fraudcast, and now, here are your fraudcasters, Hanekawa and Katrina.
Good morning, everyone.
Howdy.
Good morning, crew. Fraudcast crew.
Top of the morning.
Top of the morning to you guys. We're recording this in the morning. It's 7 a.m. for Hanekawa, who is here with me as always. Say hi.
Hello.
And for myself and Agency, who's joining us today, it is 10 in the morning. So say hi, Agency.
Hi, Agency.
He hasn't been here in a couple of episodes. He's joining us today. We're going to have a lively discussion of what we saw because there's lots to talk about. We also have some tell-all tea coming up for you guys. This will be posted on our Instagrams as well, and I'm sure it'll make its way to Reddit. We will get into that as we can throughout our discussion, but we're going to have a lively discussion of, we've got some Ed and Rose commentary and some Ash and Avery commentary, and then we have some self-quarantine edition where, oh my God, I don't know what TLC was trying to do to us with Caesar and his feet on air, but we'll get to all that. So we're just going to jump right in before the 90 days. Let's start with Dave and Lana.
This is like a case study in cognitive dissonance.
Oh.
So, okay, given what we know that this whole scene going into the candy shop, the restaurant, meeting up with the dude at the door, if we take into consideration that all of that is just fake producer-driven bullshit, what do we think about this issue with Dave talking to his friend about what the private investigator found? I personally think they're sort of different because what the private investigator is looking into is sort of separate from his little adventure. Agency.
It just seems to me like this guy's really dug in on this narrative that he's constructed for himself and this notion that, you know, there is a girl that looks like that's into him. There's too much of his personal identity and ego that's he's created, and I think his high level of emotional reactivity, the fact that he gets so mad so quickly, shows that he can't look inside and say, yeah, you know, I may have called this one wrong, guys.
And see, I think he's getting mad mainly because he's seen Lana, he's talked to Lana, and he's having people tell him that she's not real.
Well,
right? He's video chatted with her, he said, in the show. So how does he not know it's Lana?
right. I think what's happening is, right, Lana's real. And we see this on social media. We've been talking about this. People saying Lana's not real. You guys, Lana is real. She's a real person. What may not be real is her feelings for David as far as wanting a relationship and all of this. I think what the private investigator brings out, that she's on multiple sites, which we already knew, and she's under multiple names, which we already knew. We found all of those, right? So we know that she's done this. We know that the thing is the quote-unquote agent puts her pictures on all of these various sites to find an American husband. We know that happens. That she's probably talking to other men, yeah. That Dave believes they have an exclusive relationship over the last 7 years and are going to, you know, become a relationship and get married. That's where I think quote unquote might not be real. So, I mean, you had some thoughts when this was being discussed on the Discord. You had some interesting thoughts, Agency.
I did. Oh, I better check on this. Well, I mentioned that it's not just that David has this, because we were talking about sort of what is his psychological need that's being fulfilled by him being involved in this with this Lana person. And, you know, we were talking about he has a desperate need for companionship, but then I also theorized that he sort of his notion of who he is as a man, his sexual attractiveness, his youthfulness, and his vigor is sort of caught up in the fact that there is a presumably 20-something-year-old Ukrainian model type that's into him, and that seems to kind of prop up his self-perception and self-identity. And to have all of that come crashing down, right? The humiliation of having spent $100,000 on something that wasn't real, 4 trips over there that didn't pan out. There's actually that he was duped into thinking that a 22-year-old girl was actually, is she 20? I don't know how old she's supposed to be. A girl that looks like that's into him, that he could have this future, and then he looks so foolish to people, and he's beginning to see how the outside world might perceive him. That's too much, and he's got to throw up these big time defenses, and he uses angry emotion to shut it down and to push that off, that criticism away from him. That's kind of what we were talking about. This is the kind of quality conversation you get if you join the Discord, by the way.
Which is a Patreon perk if you join our Patreon for $3 a month. Patreon.com/the Fraudcast. Okay. Yeah, like it's really interesting. You know, you said it early on, the cognitive dissonance associated with him believing in this. And then there's the sort of psychological backstory that he constructs this narrative that he's required to construct this narrative in his head in order to continue to believe this ruse that Lana might be into him. And, you know, Lana may be into him and several other men as she tries to pick an American husband of, you know, that's this transactional nature, right? And I think deep down he knows that it's going to be transactional, but he's okay with that because of what he gets out of it, right?
Mm-hmm. I mean, to a certain extent, a lot of these relationships are transactional. You know, if we're looking at this season, Ed and Rose is transactional. You look at past seasons, you know, people like Karini and Paul is somewhat transactional. Mm-hmm.
Well, this is a theme we see over and over.
Yeah,
it is
Michael
a thing, but this is a different one too, because I think with Dave, it's a lot of boredom where he is. Like most of the people, like they say, I couldn't find love. I didn't have luck where I was or in America. And so that's why they expanded their horizons. Dave is actually different because he has enough money to, I would say, you know, pretty much pick a place and find someone desperate enough to come over, right? Yeah. But he has a preference. He wants the accent. He wants the look. He loves the culture. Mm-hmm. And that's why he is honed in on using this specific dating site and finding a specific type woman. Something that's different to me, other than what we assume we know from the site, that Lana doesn't make any money from it. What is her benefit of talking to him and not making money, but also not meeting him to go to America? That's what doesn't make sense to me, mm-hmm. as far as the storyline goes. You know, but of course the show makes it seem like she's scamming him for cash, but we know now that she's not getting any cash from this site. The specific site that he's talking to her on does not distribute cash to the women.
Right.
So what is her gain on stringing him along? Other than she didn't want to meet him, or she found a reason not to meet him, or she didn't even know his ass was in Ukraine and couldn't meet him. So, I mean, there's all kinds of different theories, but I think it's a lot different with Dave versus Ed, where there's not a desperateness. It seems like it's more frustration that he has sunk all his, you know, time into something and expected a turnout, and we didn't see it.
Yeah. I think too, I mean, this whole sunk cost fallacy is something that we see a lot with these couples, and you see it with couples like Colt and Larissa, or gosh, probably more couples than we don't see it with, right? Like over the years, over the seasons where they're fighting, they're arguing, all of this stuff, but you know, they've spent so much time cultivating this relationship from afar that at this point, the person coming over, you know, even though they can do better, probably, you know, as far as that transaction goes, they can get probably somebody better or whatever, maybe somebody who actually has money, things like that. They've already invested this time and effort into cultivating this relationship that's going to get them to the United States. At this point, once they get to the United States, they got to put in another 2 years to get that condition removed from their green card, and then they're free and clear, right? So I personally think that there's a sort of, you know, not necessarily risk benefit analysis, but you're an analyst, Hanekawa, like whatever that decision matrix that happens in that process.
Expected performance value over your actual value.
There you go.
That's like project management. But
instead
it's worth him going out there. He's put this much time into it. And one of the comments he left on, I think it was maybe one of my posts actually, he clarified that he wasn't just talking to her for 7 years, that they were off and on friendship over a span of 7 years. That puts a different perspective on, you know, he hasn't been sitting there chatting her up, just her.
Well, and we know that from seeing the screen grabs from the site where you can see he's got messages from other women. So he's clearly, messaging other women. He's not
putting all his eggs in one basket, but this basket is particularly full.
And maybe Lana enjoys that friendship. Maybe that's the payoff she's getting. And she gets a better friendship with him than she does with any of the other American men she's chatting with, who are just like, you know, maybe they're just ogling her and like trying to do like computer phone sex or whatever. And David is providing more of an, you know, an intellectual conversation or more actual conversation.
Right. So David is endgame, right? But everyone else is still around. Like, who knows? Like, you see the sites that people are posting that claim that she's active as of like yesterday. Does it mean she's active with men that she's chatting as potential lovers, or is she just on the site chatting with people who she considers friends? I don't know how it works. I think
she doesn't have to pay to chat, right?
No.
So it's no loss for her.
Right. And if you're, you know, maybe a lonely person, like I would assume she has friends and she's social, but, you know,
she also lives in a remote area of Ukraine.
She lives in a very remote area. I can see it not being very social. It doesn't look like it's jumping much. I can imagine her escape is through the site, perhaps. Mm-hmm. And maybe that's why she's still active on it, because she has friendships that, you know, friends with people who are okay paying to talk to another friend. I don't know.
I mean, that's sort of the model for OnlyFans, right?
Oh, I don't want to jump into OnlyFans. You don't have to pay to talk to people on OnlyFans. And I dived as deep as I want to go on that site. I'm out.
Speaking of OnlyFans, Evelyn from Corey and Evelyn is now on there, you guys. And no, we don't. We're not care. We're not going to try to get on there. So we don't need donations to join that. No.
Like to remind people, it's like, okay. But yeah, I can imagine that, you know, where she lives, it didn't look very exciting. I don't know. You know, I find comfort in chatting with my friends online because I can't go out right now. Mm-hmm. So I understand the mindset. It's probably just, you know, the website of choice that could be a problem. If she doesn't speak English well, then yeah, she might need someone to help translate. But, you know. And she could talk to anyone in the world if she is using a translator.
This is true.
But I digress. I want to talk about the private investigator scene because that almost felt like the Caesar calling the airlines to figure out what happened to the ticket scene.
Okay.
The person didn't offer any more information than we could have found out in a Google search. Our fellow Instagram bloggers have found, and we have too, like all the sites that Lana is currently the face of. Mm-hmm. So what more investigating did this person do to find? I mean, that's it.
That's a good point.
She has multiple sites. Good job, Sherlock. Wow. Like,
That's a very,
I'm
very
so
good
proud
point.
of you for doing a Google search, but offered nothing else. And Dave wasn't even surprised, which is another indicator that I smell a fake scene there.
Mm-hmm.
Like, maybe there was a premise of they actually did want to hire a private investigator to see, maybe to confirm what David was thinking. But all this did was cause friction between him and his two friends, the couple. And like I said, I just don't think that that call was authentic.
So maybe the guy who opened the door at quote unquote Lana's house, they just got him to be on the phone for this because they
just cut him a check. Open your door, and we need you to say these 5 lines over the telephone.
And he's like,
everything is.
and then he gets
Sure.
enough. The amount of money he gets is equivalent to like half a year's salary in Ukraine.
Hey, I would do it. You
yeah,
tell
I would
me
too.
I can
Fuck
make
yeah.
like half my salary on one phone call. I'm on it.
I still stand by this. Again, I have no evidence to prove this, but I stand by that he and the woman at the restaurant are husband and wife, and they just found this couple who, could at least, whatever. Like they looked,
Oh, the blonde lady and her husband.
I believe that the woman who owns the restaurant, who was like, oh, this happens all the time, even though we know it doesn't. I believe that she and the guy who answered the door are probably married, and they just had this couple, and they say, we need one of you here and one of you here. We'll pay you this. You need to just say these lines and pretend to act these scenes. And they said, okay. Like that's my theory.
That would be some interesting stuff.
Just from what I know from a production standpoint, like how they
Right.
produce this and how like David has basically one producer with him.
Oh,
He's a producer and a cameraman basically with him in Ukraine, like, and they're making all this shit up. Like, it seems like, the producer went into this candy shop and says, oh, let's do this, and
found out that her husband lived like an hour away and decided to go and visit him at their apartment.
Yeah, no, I think that not the candy shop lady, but the restaurant lady.
Oh, the restaurant chick. Yeah, maybe. Who knows?
Yeah.
I mean, that's all we can speculate on that one.
I'm just speculating that I have absolutely no evidence to support that, you guys, and make that clear. This is a Katrina, speculation. This isn't a Fraudcast news break or anything.
I mean, I would have been more surprised if that was actually an address that Lana gave him and it ended up being like her uncle or something. Like, that would have been a spin that I would have enjoyed.
Yeah. Versus
Or
just a
her
random
dad
address.
or something. It's just some random guy who was expecting pizza and got Dave. Was not happy.
You gotta ask for your money back when that happens.
Right? You're like, the wrong delivery came. This dude came with the camera, asked me to start an OnlyFans.
And OnlyFans of whatever his name is.
I would join that dude's OnlyFans.
No, you wouldn't.
Him and Igor, I'd join their OnlyFans.
Oh, I love Igor.
Not
But
gonna
yeah,
lie.
I mean, I just like it spilled from the private investigator to, I almost felt like the conversation with his guy friend, I'm really bad with names, guys, sorry, was a little authentic because that guy was just like, dude, like, you gotta wake up. But like I said, Dave's like, I've seen her, I've talked to her.
She, as an individual, is real. What may not be real is the relationship, but
right, her feelings for him, maybe.
Yeah.
And that's why she has stood him up multiple times. And, then he says, well, maybe she's too shy. I get that, but it's like, how frustrating would it be to go someplace and the reason why you didn't meet somebody who came all the way to see you was, well, I was too shy.
yeah.
So it just, I don't know. It just makes me like wonder if she even knew he was in Ukraine doing all this filming. Like, how much of this was like producer opportunists going, well, we're still going to go to Ukraine. You know what I mean? I don't know.
Well, fun fact, the producer that was in Ukraine with Dave was there. It was the same producer that filmed the Natalie and Mike the Aliens stuff in Ukraine.
Oh, that's exciting to know.
Yeah, he was.
So this guy had to. So wait, was it afterwards?
Well,
It's like this poor guy had to deal with filming Mike and Natalie, and then
he was there, so they said, "Okay, you have to film this." Yeah.
Oh my God, I would just be like, "No way, I'm leaving."
And there's some other
Did
filming.
you see what I just filmed?
There's some other filming that happens after David leaves, but I'm just gonna leave that.
Okay.
Okay.
What could it be? I do not want another Maria style bullshit. That's all I'm saying.
Well, they're all in. TLC's all into "fool me once, shame on you; fool me twice." Good ratings this season. So another Maria style reveal seems to be.
If we do have another Maria style reveal, and I'm not saying if we are or we aren't, but I feel like it's not going to have the same wow impact that the world, the day the world stopped turning when we saw Maria.
I don't know. I think it would, because like, and if you, I know how much time you spend in the comments of Instagram, but like 99.9% of people do not believe we will see Lana. So if we do, I think that is going to be quite a shook moment for the audience.
Okay.
Because like we're all expecting this to be, a catfish, or, Igor on the other line, or Williams. So.
Well, listen, if they can find Williams, I would be more impressed.
Right? I want to see Williams. I want to see an interview for Williams.
Can I reveal what I know about that situation from the tell-all?
For Williams? Mm-hmm. Sure. I think people would like to know.
We don't see Williams. Williams is not going to be.
Wow, shocker.
I know.
Fucking shocker.
So you guys, and we'll get into this a little bit more. The tell-all filmed this past weekend, May 3rd, 4th, and they did it via Skype for all of these various couples. And they kind of put them all together. They did each couple individually and all this stuff. But big shock, Williams did not appear. Who did appear was an relationship expert who talked about catfishing.
Stop it.
I swear to God.
It wasn't Ash, was it?
No, we have some other tell-all news about them. We'll get to them. But no, some other, that instead of Williams, they had some person on there. But you know what else is interesting is TLC has provided psychology services to cast members.
They've had that.
Yeah,
for
they've
a
had
few
that before.
seasons already.
Yeah, so
which is really needed for this one, because you have people jumping off Instagram, you have cast members attacking each other.
Yeah,
you have Ed, whose head got too big and thinks that he is the only cast member of 90 Day Fiance.
Yeah,
they all need a smidge of therapy. Mm-hmm. After this season,
because I
feel like I do. I feel like I need therapy, because
from dealing with this,
there's just been so much stuff and drama, and oh my gosh, even the past cast is sat down a little bit. They're watching now too. You guys aren't acting up. Laura, where are you? And no one's doing anything.
Yeah. While we're on the subject of Ed and Rose, just based on some of the stuff I saw floating around the internet this week, are we going to start calling him Edo the pedo?
No.
Oh my gosh.
Not that I'm trying to start something on the internet, but that was kind of that was the tone I was picking up on this week.
Yeah, so where that comes from, you guys, is Ed has this tendency to go live all the time with people who are underage. Even though he has, as we discussed last week, he has a disclaimer about it, but they don't read that. You see these kids, and I know, Hanekawa, you discussed that Ed appeared on this popular YouTuber, PewDiePie.
So, he doesn't, so when you do your lives, right, and you have the people who are saying, pick me, mm-hmm. you can't see that they're a kid.
Right, you just see a username.
When you're in their live, you just pick them and the kids end up there. So, I feel like there's a bit of a he's not choosing to go live with children. Children just so happen to be
his audience
going live with him.
Yeah.
And the problem is that his audience is of a younger age. They're teenagers. They're the Twitch viewers. They're the YouTube viewers. Mm-hmm. So that's what he's gonna get. He's got 250 something followers, and probably 80% of those are underage teenagers.
Yeah.
So that's who's going to be in your live.
Well, I was having a discussion about this offline, and even if it's all completely innocent, in the world of social media, it's a bad look. It's such a bad look because all it takes is like 2 screenshots and you're like, oh my God.
Oh, I think he
like,
knows it. And we can actually just dive into Ed and Rosemary for talking about him. But this jumps into even the YouTube world. So him and Rosemary both jumped off and made a YouTube, right? I think he has like 5,000 followers. And Rosemary, who just appeared on social media like literally 2 weeks ago,
She's come in on fire.
She has like over 200. She's probably close to 250,000 followers on Instagram. She is now verified because people were making a shitload of fake accounts on her. And she also has a YouTube, which has about 10,000 followers at the time I'm saying this.
And she just started it,
She just started.
A couple 24
so you can
hours
tell
ago.
where people are leaning towards their sympathies in this couple. It's definitely not towards Ed.
Well, yeah, and that's why, and with good reason, because Rose completely tears him a new asshole and says to Ed what we're all thinking during this episode. So, Ed,
I love her. I'm done. That's it.
Yeah, like Ed tells Rose that he doesn't want more kids and he wants to get the big snip, which, by the way, is something you should probably have told her before you got on a goddamn plane, which is something that she tells him during this conversation. And she's like, yeah. And he's like, I wanted to see if we were compatible. Well, fucker, that's one of the things you determine compatibility is whether or not you want.
The only thing he was measuring compatibility with was his dick. He wanted to see if his dick was compatible with her.
Yeah.
And he had no care about compatibility of wants and desires. Because, he came to the Philippines going, I want this, and Rose has to prove this, and I don't know if I want to propose to her. I need to know she's not in it for this and this and this and this and this.
It was all his conditions. Yeah.
Right. By the way, I'm withholding information about, say, my height. And she brushes it off. Forgiven. Okay. I think this was the last straw for her. He goes in there like a wrecking ball, tells her, shave her legs, brush your teeth better, do this, wear this, and then turns around and was like, oh, by the way, I've been keeping this really important detail of my desires versus your desires.
Yeah, with no, with no care at all about what she may want, like as a human being and in a potential partner, what she may want in a partner.
Right. And he's like, I'm 55 or whatever the hell his age is. And he goes, I don't want more kids. Well, then maybe date someone else who's 55 and doesn't want more kids either. Mm-hmm. If you're dating someone younger, and it seems like he went after someone with a kid so that he didn't have to deal with her wanting kids. Like, oh, look, you already have one. This is perfect because then maybe you'll be less likely to want more. And Rose is like, no, I want a kid with you.
She's like, I want a couple more kids.
She told him that before he got his ass on the plane, and he still didn't say anything. So I'm with her.
Absolutely. And I think the entire internet and the entire world
the entire internet is with Rose because she called him out on his bullshit. And he just sat there dumbfounded like, oh my God, she's standing up for herself. Holy shit, what do I do?
She has thoughts and feelings and wants and desires. She's not just a fucking blow-up doll.
Holy crap. Oh my God, Fred.
Well, one of the things that was interesting about it is that, a lot of times these relationships are kind of transactional, right? Ed is an extremely insecure person, right? We see this from the moment he gets on the show.
And probably with good reason.
Yeah, he's really insecure. I think it's not, but it goes beyond just his physical appearance, right? This is a guy who got married to what seems like a very lovely lady and cheated on her 2 years later. He knows that it's not all sunshine and lollipops inside his soul. So he carries with him some insecurities. And so I think that's part of why he, going to find someone in the Philippines could be appealing to him, because he knows that he has something significant which could lure someone to him, even though he doesn't feel like he's that much of a catch, which is the ability to come to the U.S. But what Rose has shown us is that,
that's not enough.
there's a limit to what a ticket to the U.S. will get, and it's not going to be her dignity. And you know what? Good for her for having the gumption to kind of call him out on BS, because I think that he sort of assumed that his ability to bring her over would compensate for the less desirable characteristics of his personality and his little bit of bait and switch tactics.
Yeah.
I don't like his idea of courting. Well, if that's what we can call this.
You know who else doesn't like his?
Like,
you know what else doesn't like his courting is the entire cast at the tell-all, and they let him know that they don't like him.
So tell-all T.
Yes.
At the tell-all, the cast. All tell Ed, shut the fuck up.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, he is not a fan or cast favorite. He has fans, but like I feel like all these fans are not just 90 Day fans.
Well, Tori Spelling is doing a grilled cheese cook-off with him. Like, what the hell? What are these people seeing in him that we don't see?
What is Tori Spelling even doing now?
True. Nothing.
Burn.
Right? So, of course, she wants to get back in some. It's the same thing with Trisha Paytas. Like, she just wants some more followers. She probably wants more attention. Ooh. I'm thinking, like, the last time I saw Tori Spelling was in a really bad Lifetime movie that her dad produced.
True.
So, I enjoyed it.
Fair.
I love the bad Lifetime movies, but I'm just saying, like, you know, if he got on there with Celine Dion or Jennifer Lopez, then I'd be like, oh, shit. Okay.
Well, I think it's possible that these people who are becoming his fans aren't necessarily like deep into the 90-day world like we are and watch it the way we do. So they don't see him. They just see him as this like sympathetic character with, you know, these physical attributes.
He's a goofy guy. He does like a cosplay thing. He does, you know, he dresses up and does goofy stuff. He's been in the Twitch world. And his Twitch gig is cooking. So he does things like grilled cheeses and all that kind of stuff. So, like, he has viewers from Twitter and Twitch that probably don't watch the show, or now they watch the show because he's on it.
Yeah.
But he's also, I believe, signed on with would you call it PR, I think?
Representation, like an agent or a PR person?
Like an agent. I think I don't know. I think he signed on with an agent who is helping him get out there a little bit better. So, you know.
Doesn't he also have like a clothing line or like a brand he's launching?
Oh yeah, that's controversy. That's controversy too. So I mean, I don't want to dig into him without mentioning that Molly is doing it too. She's selling masks, but Ed is also selling clothing, and he's like launching his own mask line, and a lot of people are lashing against him for this because it feels like he is trying to profit off of a pandemic. And like a lot of these 90-day stars are going to have to like tread lightly with that. Well, and I mentioned Molly too because I can't say him without Molly.
If you're getting mad at him for selling masks, then you got to get mad at Molly for selling masks.
Right.
Do you though? Because like Molly had a clothing business, right? So now she can't sell her custom made product. She's got all this material. It's like, well, got to do something.
Right, but we're comparing to, say, Annie and...
Annie's doing that too, yeah.
Annie and David.
They didn't have
clothing. Who are donating
line.
The masks that they're making.
Uh-oh.
They're not selling them.
They're just making them.
She is working her ass off to donate it to frontline workers. So I would draw a line to there's a difference there.
Absolutely.
Like if Ed was donating these to hospitals.
So Ed neither had a pre-existing clothing line business that transitioned. No. Neither is he donating these, like making them himself and donating them like Annie is. So he is different in that regard from both Molly and Annie.
Right. He's probably having it made in some offsite location for 3 cents a mask, and he's selling them for $35.
Yeah, it's like those Kardashian kits, right? You know, it's not like it's a repurposed thing for the situation, which is what I see Molly's business as. I mean, you know, I remember seeing posts on Reddit in the early days where people were just like tying bras to their face. It's like, oh, look, here's my mask. Mm-hmm. And it's, you know, it's like, oh, let's, you know, I guess you can like, okay, cut here. Not that
it works if you have like a size C or lower.
Yeah,
when you start getting into, you know, the full cups, then you have a full face mask, and we don't need that.
Yeah, well, not that I've ever seen one, obviously. But, you know, it's like it's a natural extension for Molly, like, you know, and also because she's not making any money. That was her source of income. And so now she's transitioning into a way she can meet a need and still
and people
maintain some income.
Yeah, and people do like to support these, small businesses during during this time.
Yeah.
Whereas Ed is just let me pay 3 cents a mask to have these made some dropship location in China and then have them shipped out from there. Like versus he's sitting at a sewing machine like Annie, busting his ass making these and donating them.
Yeah, exactly. They're all different, and evaluate them all on their own merits.
Would you guys like to move on to Lisa and Usman?
Sure.
I wouldn't say I'd like to move on to Lisa, but it is necessary to do so.
Mommy finally gives the blessing, as we discussed last week, but now they go to the marriage registry, and Usman appears to ask for the very first time, apparently, what it appears on screen, what he needs to do to get married to this woman from America. Lisa gets mad at him. Shock. She complains about everything, but this is a big deal. She came out here specifically to marry this guy, right? And he's appearing to be asking for the very first time what is necessary for marriage. So do you guys think this is real, or is this TLC frauding?
Well, it's real that jurisdictions want to verify whether you're legally eligible to marry. You can't get a K-1 visa unless you can demonstrate to the U.S. government that you are legally eligible to get married. So I don't think that's a BS requirement. What is BS is that Lisa didn't think that maybe she should just bring her divorce decree just in case. Also, I went to the marriage registrar's website for Lagos, Nigeria, when we were wondering if the whole Angela needs a witness thing was a bunch of BS.
Right.
And if I could do that in 5 minutes from my computer, Lisa could do it in 5 minutes from her computer.
Right. So
she was too busy looking up Usman's social media, though. But.
She got to watch them females. It's a full-time job.
But if we remember, there was an interview that Usman did with the, what's it called, Lip Service, where he was explaining that he wasn't even believing that Lisa was really going to come out there. I don't think he thought it was going to go this far. So no, I don't think he was prepping at all.
So maybe he didn't ask.
Hoped.
I think he hoped that it wasn't going to go that far. And then all of a sudden she was over there and there was a film crew and he's like, well, I can put out some music and get famous and, get some benefit out of this. But he looks like he's a deer in the headlights as this wedding is full steam ahead. And I don't think he expected it to get this far.
Do you think Lisa may or may not have? Do you think she would have done this Google search ahead of time, or was she relying on him to do it?
She was relying on him because what she did was she delegated her understanding, and she delegated all the work that needed to be pre-done to Usman, and then expected him to do it.
And he didn't.
And he didn't because he's
at least it appears
Nigerian.
that
he's thinking everything is here. Yeah. Just ask him to send it. I'm like, dude, it takes 3 days just to get through the court system to ask about a document, let alone get that shit back. You do not get documents that quick here.
Yeah.
No,
I have easy access to my divorce decree. Because
I need to. It's in my closet.
I've needed it for changing my name, things like because I went back to my maiden name, and part of my divorce decree there's a separate order that reinstates my maiden name, and so I've had to access those documents for a variety of reasons, right? So I don't know how long Lisa's been divorced or what if she's needed those, but.
She said 5 years ago.
So, okay, mine was 5 years ago, and I could still tell you exactly where my divorce decree is. I have access to it at work, and I have access to it at home.
I don't think that Lisa is the same type of because we also have younger kids. There's a lot of things that we still have to present that for when we're talking about custody and. Who's allowed to do this and that with the kids, and this is what the decree says, blah, blah, blah. Not that anyone ever follows those fucking things, but you at least have to know where important documents like that are. Like, right, when you become an adult, you need your birth certificate, you need a social security card, and you need any court records that will save your ass if you are going to get thrown in prison. So those are the things that you need to have easily accessible and ready at any time.
Right.
It's like my PSA announcement there. Don't do what I did and like grow up and forget those really important lessons.
Yes. Have access to
Then
those
when
documents.
you're trying to get a job with the government and they're like, you need to prove that you're a citizen. I'm like, oh, well, fuck. Oops.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I have a little bit of, I want to call it tea, but it's like herbal tea right now because I'm still working on it.
Not piping hot.
It's not piping hot. It's getting there.
Steeping.
It's brewing.
Brewing and steeping. Okay.
So we all know and love Soulja Boy's "I Love You" song. It's playing everywhere.
Oh yeah, this tea.
We know it's important, right? There is another musician who came out with a song that sounds about the same in about June or July of last year. And it's quite suspicious because it has the same doo-doo-doo-doo sound, you know? I'm like,
How'd that go again?
I'm gonna have to post it when I get deeper into it. But the artist's name is Dolly Pizzle, and he is a Nigerian, I'm gonna say, rapper, and he knows about it, right? The song is called Otedola.
Okay.
And right,
Okay.
and in a message asking about if he knew about this "I Love You" song, he goes, "Yeah, I sang Otedola and I've released that song a long time ago. I watched it on YouTube because I've been receiving a lot of tags that someone else stole my song." He goes, "I checked his page already and tried to listen to the song. I'll make amendments on things. I don't know what that means." He goes, "Thanks, I really appreciate that." So
This is your conversation with him.
this is a conversation between a fan and him, and I've reached out to him also to confirm.
Okay.
But yeah, so it seems like there's probably a competition of who got the song out first, because I think that Soulja Boy and Lisa got married around, what was it, October?
Yeah.
So that leaves the timeline for when he actually maybe produced that song in the open. It could have been around summertime. So it's more like, where did the song come from first, right? And if people are wondering what this song sounds like, it has the same opening. It's basically the same track being played. So I don't know if this was maybe like, I don't know, royalty-free music that they both decided to make a song to.
Well, which came first? Which artist?
That's what I'm trying to figure out. So this guy said his song came out in July of 2019. And we know that's around the time that Lisa and Usman were talking. And Lisa says that he made this song, I don't know when. So that's a little bit of digging we have to do. But, you know, everyone has been bringing up this song that exists along with Soulja Boy's, and like no one's addressing the elephant in the room with this.
Well,
So-
you know, this is the kind of thing that like copyright lawsuits are, right? You file a claim saying whoever claims the other person stole their stuff would have to file a lawsuit and claim copyright infringement. And then this is the fact finding that the court engages in, is all of these things,
Right.
is who came first.
if that's how it happens in Nigeria.
That's true. In America, this is how it would work, right?
Right. Like, I have no clue how copyright works in Nigeria, if it exists, how they combat against it. So,
Yeah.
you know,
It's all, I mean,
in our, you know, court system,
Yeah.
this would be something that would probably be easily handled. I don't know how it
but
is.
it's still a pretty in-depth fact finding. I mean, I remember
that's it.
when I
That's
took
all I have.
entertainment law in law school, you know, a million years ago, and it was an 8 a.m. class, so I wasn't like super, into it. I didn't remember a lot from it, but there's a lot of stuff. It does, just because it sounds the same doesn't mean it's an automatic win for either, for the party. Like they have to see like when it came out, how much of it is similar. Was when the one came out, was it out to the public? Did the person, like copyright, it depends a lot on first use, trademark and stuff. Is first use versus registration versus there's all these little factors that are involved, and you have to engage in this fact finding. So and then they can say, well, you clearly stole it. And then I think intent matters.
Right. So that's the lukewarm tea I have, but I think it just needs to be
fleshed out,
brought up / addressed, because it's floating around social media. This isn't the first time it's been brought up, but it would be interesting to see what goes with that. It doesn't seem like this guy's really angry. So, maybe he's the one that ripped it. I don't know.
Who knows? Maybe they weren't.
I'm trying to meter his response, and his response is kind of like, "Oh yeah."
Maybe they did it together, and they both are getting.
That could well be thing, but what I'm kind of going on is like, TLC has a tendency to fabricate situations, and who knows if, like you didn't hear about Soulja Boy until like the end of the year 2019. Like all of his music, since he was a famous rapper when Lisa met him, but there's no songs that predate the time that the filming starts. So I don't know how she heard of him. Right? There's no like records of concerts. He did this whole spat of like pretending he was winning awards in Denny's or something like that, and like I don't understand like what they're trying to make it seem like he was some award-winning celebrity rapper, very famous. And if I ask a lot of my friends who live in Nigeria, granted Nigeria is large, they're like, who? So he's probably famous in his state, but I don't know if that is radiating out to the entire country of Nigeria.
Correct. Yeah.
Are you saying he might have been a Yahoo boy first and a famous rapper second?
A famous rapper. Well, we know that's what he wants to do, is become a famous rapper in the United States. He's mentioned that he wants to be in the United States many, many times. That's his goal. So
fake it until you make it.
You're talking about fake storylines. Can we just like deal with Yolanda and move on?
Real quick.
Yeah, real quick, because her segment is so quick.
What's a reverse image search, you guys?
Finally, they do reverse image search.
10 episodes in?
She should have done it when she first saw his picture, and in the back of her mind, whatever this guy really looked like, she thought, this is too good to be true.
And what's the old saying? If it sounds too good to be true, it probably is.
Mm-hmm. Right? Like, I feel, she's like, I never heard of reverse Google image search. And I give it to her. She probably did not have any clue about that. That is rather new, and it's kind of in the younger crowd to go and do that. And, people who have watched Catfish or something like that, which this is where that story should have been.
Mm-hmm. Well, we know that Yolanda is faking a lot of this, right? We know this. So I just can't, I have no patience for the storyline. I'm so over it. I have nothing to say about the story.
Right. Like, we know she's reenacting. I feel like there was probably a small seed of she was talking to someone and it ended up being a catfish. Mm-hmm. And maybe she was trying to get on the show when she felt it wasn't a catfish, right? Mm-hmm. And they had to redo it to have her kind of reenact that and draw it out. Because you notice, like, if you squish all her segments together, she feels like just one episode. Mm-hmm. It's not enough. Well, like filming.
Once they found out it was a catfish, they had to like re-image her storyline.
Yeah, they had to get some more writing into it, because she doesn't. I'm gonna say she doesn't go to Europe, because we're like two episodes until the tell-all.
And we saw a text message.
I can imagine she's not getting on a plane to go anywhere.
Yeah, we saw a text message between her and Uche where she talks about how TLC has to come back and film.
Right. And she never mentions that she goes to Europe in those text messages. he asks, did you see him? And she just goes on this way. I don't know. I don't know if she was all there when she was talking about it, because she just kept referring to like other stuff. But who knows what was going on? But I don't think she went to Europe or England at all. There's one who the hell is she gonna meet? Like, we know she's not gonna go to Italy to meet the actual model that they ripped the stock photos of. So,
well, if you want a hard segue, maybe she'll meet up with Tom.
Oh my God, he could be like, it was me the whole time.
Well, Tom called. What? There's all these.
Look, Darcy, I've moved on.
But we see Tom calls his girl Shannon, and everyone's
who
like
looks suspiciously like Lana.
Right. Okay.
Oh my God, it's all coming full circle. It's the grand unified theory of 90 Day.
Okay, so Shannon is this girl that he, at least on the show, what they say, which is actually true from what we know in real life, is Tom met this girl Shannon, the one that he's in the pictures with at the Versace show in Milan. We also know, and from in real life, that they were only together like a couple of weeks. So he's talking to her like, oh, well, this is going to be like this long-term thing, but it doesn't last very long. She's moved, they each moved on. He moved on to this girl Amanda. They've now since broken up, but that's whatever. Shannon is engaged to this other guy. So, they had a brief fling. It was, was what it was, whatever. And, I guess they got their, 15 minutes. Well, I don't know. Tom's is like, 45 minutes, hour and a half. I don't know the fame at this point. But yes.
Well, since we're talking about Darcy and Tom, like, a lot of fans are reacting with, why are you still dragging on their story now that they're two separate? Like, they broke up. Mm-hmm. And are we following Tom for a specific reason?
Yeah. We're following
Darcy for a specific reason?
We're following Darcy because Darcy and Stacy will have a spinoff.
Great.
But why are we following Tom still? Just to clear out his story? Give him a clean ending? I don't know.
Give us closure about where he goes? I don't know. I'm hoping maybe some closure for him, because I just don't want it drawn out like Jesse's, where we have a what now, and it's about Jesse just going around dating random fucking people who are probably paid actresses as well. It's just all too weird how like that story just like exists in its own bubble, but they forced it into this before the 90 days. It's just like, what's going on?
Yeah.
Just to fill up some space, probably.
Yeah,
but, that's all we get from Darcy and Tom.
Let's close out Tom's story so we can just give a clean ending and move on. End it with, he and Darcy broke up. He moved on happily ever after with Shannon, and that's it. And we'll carry on Darcy and Stacy's story on their spinoff, but Tom's is closed and done, and we're over.
Right. Just whatever. At least they won't be arguing anymore.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Maybe. Speaking of not arguing anymore, Stephanie, Erica.
I know. I think we got one
they didn't
episode.
Argue this episode.
One episode.
Yeah. I was like, finally, there's an episode where like there isn't a walkout or.
I think it's also. I don't think it's a coincidence that this is also the episode where Stephanie talks the least.
Maybe that's why.
Well, I think they edited this one to focus mainly on. Erica coming out to her parents, and that's enough tension as it is that they didn't need to be in a fight while doing it.
Yeah, agree.
Right? Like we really didn't need them to like be choking each other, and then when the parents open the door, they're like, "Hi." So like, that was great. That was a really touching moment that when she came out and her dad was like, do you want more stir fry?
Yeah,
like,
you want more fried rice?
I did like how she's like, how did you guys not know? Because everyone is like, yeah, how did you not know?
You're literally a walking rainbow. Like, how did
she is a walking like colorful rainbow. It's delightful, but as a parent I'd be like, you jive to a different tune, and that's okay. But the mom is like, I knew. She's probably like, yeah, the lack of like people that you've introduced to me. You're always dating someone, not him, but who knows? And she said moms always know, which is pretty much true.
Yeah, I think so. I I think so. And that was really it. I mean, it was nice to see her parents respond. I know that for some people, like, it's not a big deal, like, that their kids are, you know, I guess I don't know. I want to say different, but like on the
a non-standard orientation.
For some people, that's like no big deal. For some people, it is a big deal. And the representation, people had been questioning for a long time what this first quote unquote gay couple was going to be, how it's going to be portrayed. And I think TLC sort of soft stepped into it by having these two girls who are bisexual before they jump into the two homosexual men that we're going to see on the other way. So they sort of soft stepped into it, right? And I think that at least they did a good job with this episode, and you know, showing that response, and hopefully, you know, maybe it'll be you know, a good template for other parents if other parents are having a hard time accepting their own children. So, I mean, maybe that's too much to expect. It is a trashy TV show after all.
Right. Everyone's going to be different, you know, and we see that Stephanie still has to come out to her mother,
yes.
I believe.
Yes.
And so, you know, that's kind of the cliffhanger for her story that we may or may not see. I don't know.
Yeah.
But that's pretty much their segment, was that small part.
Yeah. So let's get into the argument that heard around the world.
Yep.
Ash and Avery.
Yeah.
Ash and Avery.
Oh boy.
So I want so let me tee y'all up for this, because I want this you guys to just let your feelings roll on this. So, you know, Ash had this seminar that we explained last week was a TLC setup, kind of not his normal wheelhouse. And it was a really long seminar. It was several hours of filming that they edited down into like 10 minutes, made it look like a 30-minute seminar, made him look really, really sexist. We don't know for sure what the reality of his actual beliefs are in the situation, but we do know that Ash was kind of shook by the whole experience because it was not a good reception for him, and it kind of shook him, you know, and it probably wasn't a good reception for him because it wasn't his wheelhouse subject, and it wasn't, you know, his normal setup of seminar, and he was kind of thrown into it, but it didn't go well for him. So afterwards, he's trying to talk to Avery, but Avery has her thoughts of her own. Yeah.
So I'm going to jump in here, and I'm going to set this up for us, right? So we're in this situation. And so what we're contrasting these thoughts against is this absolute internet pile on to Ash. I mean, I've only looked at it from the 90-day subreddit and the 90-day uncensored subreddit. And it's about as vicious as you could possibly imagine, the types of things that are being said about Ash. And I want to put that aside for the moment, but let's just take a moment and sort of frame where each person is coming from on this, right? As you know, Katrina, as you described, Ash has had this kind of disastrous seminar. He wasn't prepared. He appeared out of his depth. I think in his mind, he knows that he flubbed some stuff, and it's going to be probably edited in a way that's not favorable to him. So it's not simply that he had an embarrassing situation. He embarrassed himself in front of his American girlfriend. His professional brand and his professional reputation is very much in jeopardy because he knows this is going to be seen by millions of people across the world. And kind of this career he's built up for himself as someone with insights on relationships and something to offer could essentially disappear overnight once this airs. And that's a very stressful situation for somebody to be in. You see the guy drives an Audi. He's accustomed to a particular lifestyle, and this is kind of what he staked his career trajectory onto. And so to an extent, he's dealing with the anxiety that could all come to an end. And so that's kind of the space where he's coming from. And Avery, at least the way it's showed to us on the show, she really just wants to go after him for some of the things he said, right? She doesn't perhaps hold to the views that he expressed. And so, you know, and for Ash, right, he kind of feels like his expertise and his ability to contribute in a meaningful way to the world is under threat. And now Avery's coming at him, attacking it even more. So he's got the stress of what's going to happen with his career. He's got the frustration of having really effed up something significant for him. And now he's got somebody who, for him, he wants to go to for support, someone to show him love and concern and compassion.
He needs a soft place to land as his girlfriend. He needs his girlfriend to be his soft place to land, to be his support system.
And instead, she's just perpetuating the pile-on, perpetuating the attack on him.
She's prolonging that situation. So he's already worked up and flared up from, as he says, miserably failing. His ego is broken. And she just piles on. Regardless if she was already holding things back because she felt it was never the right time, she actually picked the worst time ever to unload all of her thoughts. Like this whole season has been her being suspicious of him, poking at him, asking probing questions, interrogating him over things she had no material proof to go on. I don't like that you're available to your customers all the time. That's his business model. Mm-hmm. Before you met him, that was his business model. Mm-hmm. If you didn't like that, if it didn't jive with you, then you had no business, trying to get into a relationship with him.
Yeah.
Like all these things, I feel like she knew before. And I guess I don't understand why she was just like, she acted shocked the entire season. Like, oh my God, you have 60 text messages. And I'm like, and? You know what he does for a living. Those are 60 people that are giving him money so that he can have his lifestyle that I'm pretty sure you enjoy too.
Right.
So it's like, Ash is not poor. He's not starving. He's not struggling. He has no need to depend on Avery to get to the United States at all. So that's not even a power that she has.
No, he has something called the visa waiver program. He can go to the U.S. whenever the hell he wants.
Exactly. He could have came to her. She says she risks her job and all this bullshit. And her livelihood. I don't know how, but he could have easily came to meet her.
Right. Mm-hmm. Which we know he does after the filming ends. He goes and sees her a couple times. But one thing we also know, and we can get into this in a minute, is by the time the tell-all films, as of this weekend, they broke up. They broke up like maybe a week before the tell-all. So We'll get into that once we're done with this.
And so another thing that we see is Avery does the thing where it's not it morphs from being about this is I was upset by things you said at this seminar to here are the 10 things I'm frustrated with you about that I'm just going to throw at your face right now. It's not about the thing. It's about the 10 things underneath the thing. And she's really just dumping on the guy. And when all he needs is like a shoulder to cry on, figuratively. I don't think Ash is much of a crier. And so it's creating this cycle where they're starting to talk past each other. But the thing here that I think is worth kind of, and this is not to endorse necessarily Ash's views. I think I'm not going to go so far as to say that Ash is a raging misogynist like people are saying online. I think Ash tends to view the world in cliches and in cliched terms. And I think, that can come off especially if it's edited in a particular way, it can come off looking like the way it did. But anyway, let's put that aside. Avery seems extremely entitled to having her concerns addressed right in that moment. She doesn't seem to feel like
get that that's not the right time to excuse me
that at that moment it's her job as the partner to be a comfort for somebody who's clearly suffering, because if you just watch the situation objectively, he's suffering, and for her to say, I'm frustrated by what he said, but he's suffering right now. Let me put my needs aside, comfort him, get him back to a place where he's feeling okay. Then we can talk about those things, and then I can kind of get to the bottom of some of this. But, we have to sort of shuffle needs around right now. But she didn't know. She felt absolutely entitled to have her concerns met with right then. And if he didn't have the emotional bandwidth to to give that to her, she's going to go pile on even further. And that's kind of where it opens in this episode when they're on, I guess they're by his Audi and like she's sitting on a little ridge.
And he like wants to just take off because he's so hurt and
He's
frustrated
flustered,
and stuff. What I think is interesting too is like, okay, so the three of us have the same view on it. We're watching this and we're going, oh shit, she's being kind of a selfish bitch because yeah, she has legitimate issues with his views, but now is not the right time to be discussing it because you're kicking him when he's down. When you've got these conflicting needs. He needs this, she needs this, but which one, is the better partner, right? Like we're looking at it from that point of view, which we apparently are the only people in the world who have these views, because you look at this online, you look at the social media reaction, everybody's like, Ash is such a misogynistic asshole who's a terrible partner to Avery. And we're looking at it and going, no, Avery's kind of being a dick right now. And I don't know if that's colored by, other things.
I mean, I think what he said in the seminar did not sit well with a lot of people.
Yeah.
And
understandably.
we were still emotionally high on that to where we mentally sided with Avery. But aside from the topic that he talked about in the seminar that was set up anyways, it wasn't a seminar that he had planned anyways. It was how she responded to the situation that I find the fault to be on her part. She had a chance to let him calm down, I don't know, have dinner, I don't know, do adult stuff, I don't know, calm down, and then bring up the topic slowly and make sure he's ready to talk about it. Like sometimes people need a little bit of time to process. He's probably thinking, what the fuck did I just do or say? And then if she's sitting there, poking at him with the pitchfork going, oh my God, you said that. Like, yeah.
Exactly.
He's going to walk away. He's going to be done. He's going to be fed up, and he's not going to answer the hard questions that you have at the moment.
There's something to the zeitgeist of the moment that I feel like is at play here, right? So the way the seminar is portrayed, Ash comes off as someone with some perhaps antiquated views of male-female relationships, which seems to be a signal to, shall we say, the less thinking parts of the internet to cast him as in this villainous role. And I think that that's really inappropriate because we don't know what the full seminar was about. We don't know what the topic really was, how it was pitched to the audience. What he said in like the other 3 or 4 hours we didn't get to see.
Yeah.
It could very well be that he was unprepared and way over his skis and he just fell flat on his face. I tend to think that that's probably what happened.
But we have the advantage of knowing what we know about TLC filming and knowing how scripted the scene was, right? So we see that and we go, oh, okay, well, even if some of this is true on his views that we may not agree with, we know that there's this component of being faked, right? And we're not holding necessarily those views against him. And it seems like a lot of people are seeing that and going, oh, he's this raging misogynist, therefore he doesn't deserve to have any room in this relationship to be a wounded partner. Even though
Exactly.
the two should not be equated, right? It's a false equivalency, in my opinion. But
Sure, of course. You can feel bad for the guy without endorsing his views, even if you think they're bad.
Exactly. And
right, yeah.
Yeah. It is setting aside his views, which may absolutely be misogynist. They may be completely sexist. They may be ones that you absolutely don't agree with. But does that mean that as a partner, Avery should not have supported him in that moment when he was feeling hurt and down and, his whole professional outlook on, things is being risked. And he's, he's not, maybe he's not a crier, but if he was, this would be a situation in which I would be crying because, oh my God, I just fell flat on my face in my professional realm. That's a harsh situation to be in. And Avery was not supportive of the fact that he just did that.
Yeah. And so I want to touch on some other aspects to how this has been reacted to, because what we see later in the episode is that, they go back to the Airbnb where they're staying And the argument appears to have not settled down over the intervening course of an evening, right?
We're missing something.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like we missed another argument that happened before they started filming again.
Right, but what we can see is that things haven't calmed down. Like, Avery hasn't backed off her kind of aggressive stance, and Ash hasn't been able to adequately communicate to her. I think because he feels kind of under attack, he feels like he needs to defend himself, but also he hasn't been able to sort of convey to her, look, I need something different from you right now, and you're not giving it to me. So we go in, and things are getting a lot more heated and escalated, and Ash kind of loses his temper and leaves, right? So this is where I want to pick up, and because I've seen a lot of online, and you guys can tell me what you're seeing on Instagram and Facebook, but on Reddit, for example, there are a lot of posts saying, oh, Ash is such an abuser.
Oh.
Avery's going to wind up in a women's shelter. He's such a raging narcissist and a gaslighter, and all this ridiculous
all of the
stuff.
terms du jour. Gaslighter, narcissist, and abuser
Yeah.
are the favorite words that people like to use on this show.
So I want to make a few observations that show me that people really have no idea what they're talking about. So when we start seeing them, we see that Ash is kind of off and away. Maybe he was walking like around the hallway. He was trying to create some distance. When they show us him trying to re-engage with Avery, he's very reluctant because there's like a sofa with a chaise. It kind of creates a square in this living space.
He's physically creating a barrier between them.
He's kind of hiding behind the island on the kitchenette. He doesn't want to enter the space where Avery is. He wants to keep some distance there. He's very reluctant to enter that space. And he does to try to engage, to try to show he's willing to listen. But eventually, as it gets heated, he backs off again. So there's a very much on his part a desire to create space, to get away from the conflict, which is extremely healthy. That's what you're supposed to do. If you have a heated conflict where you can't resolve it, it is perfectly okay to exit, create space and time between the two people to where your emotions can calm down, where you can try again, right? Mm-hmm. But people are saying that Ash is not an abusive guy if he's trying to actually exit a conflict and get away from it.
Yeah, I don't get where the abuser comments are coming in because
it's because he raised his voice.
And he's not letting Avery speak as much as she wants to speak. I'm not sure, but
yeah. But let's contrast this with Jeffrey and Vari. I know we're not supposed to talk about Jeffrey, but think about that scene where he's sitting around the table with her Russian friends and he finds out that she's been talking to other Americans, right? When he finds out, he stands up, right? So he goes from a place where he's sitting, he looks like this, and he essentially doubles his size in relation to Varia. He then comes into her space, points his finger at her, raises his voice, and is very confrontational, right? That's very aggressive. That's an aggressive action against somebody. It's so bad that the male friend who she brought with feels like he needs to stand up to signal, that Jeffrey needs to back off. See, that's an aggressive action. Ash didn't take any aggressive actions. Instead, he tried to distance himself as much as he could so that he could exit the conflict. So when people say that Ash is being abusive, you kind of don't know what you're talking about. You have to look at his patterns of action. He's trying to exit the conflict. He's trying to get away so that the tension can be lowered. Is how I read and interpret that. And it's really important to kind of hammer this home. Like I have a very big problem with people throwing around terms like narcissist, gaslighter, abuser, because those terms exist.
Just because you don't like somebody or somebody is an asshole doesn't make them a narcissist. They could just be an asshole. And I think what happens here is that agency, that's you.
That's me.
Your thoughts on this, I mean, I think are absolutely, on point. And I think what's happening here is people didn't like Ash, right? They don't like his views expressed at the seminar. And so they are jumping all over him for whatever, anything, and they're using that any reason they can to attack him and to make an argument where perhaps there is not one. And,
Right.
and I mean, I know I personally have been the subject of, a lot of, hatred and vitriol, and people have said things about me. And so I get it. Maybe I get it from that perspective that, you may not like me, and that's fine, but jump all over me for something that's not necessarily a thing. And that's where I get a little bit whatever. But, enough about me. I don't want to make this about me.
Well, we're going on just a few snippets. Like, I think his whole segment was probably like 10 minutes of a chopped up seminar that was using material from a much larger seminar. Like, I don't think they ever gave the chance to address that. Like, I don't know. The whole thing is just a mess. Like, I honestly feel bad for this is his career.
Yeah.
And his career is being set on fire because I think he's used to working individually, one-on-one with people. And he's also probably used to people coming with a problem to help them problem solve through it. Not just talking to people about
how to get
love
a man.
languages. Right. How to find Mr. Perfect. And we should actually make a separate podcast to talk about feminine and masculine thing, because we'll talk too much about it if we go into it now.
Well, that's a good segue into some additions and changes we're going to be making to our Patreon here soon, and that we're going to be doing additional content and additional tiers, and our content might span away from all just reality show discussions and might go into other things on our Patreon. So,
right. So stay tuned, because I think we can make a more formal announcement. Because
once that's more firmed up, but that might be a good place for such a discussion to occur.
These deep dives, yeah. We want you to choose to listen to these deep dives.
Right. People are tuning in to hear, let me hear the tea. But let me give you guys a little bit of tea on Ash and Avery. And I think, Hanekawa, you have some as well that came out from the tell-all. I know that I can tell you that, so Avery... So from what I've seen, and I think you have seen some too, Hanekawa, we've actually seen some video footage from the tell-all. And again, we, as with all the tell-all tea, we don't know how it's ultimately going to end up edited. Although some of our content may come from editors. I'm not going to spill my, sources on this, but what we have heard about what occurred was Avery comes into this, into the tell-all, playing the victim. They had just broken up. Keep in mind that they had just broken up maybe a week to a couple of days before this filming, week to a couple of days, depending on which party you ask. But they broke up, and it's not been pretty. And they'd broken up several times, actually. And there had been some stuff that had happened, and Avery came in playing the victim, trying to get everybody on her side. And of course, just like we discussed with Ash is the bad guy with these misogynistic, sexist views. He deserves everything he gets, blah, 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 blah. And so the girls sort of come after Avery, but then by the end of the tell-all, they are actually against Avery. They see Avery for, I guess, sort of the best way to put it is who she is. And they don't necessarily believe everything that she is saying, and they kind of tend to support Ash a little bit more, or even if they don't support Ash, they don't necessarily support Avery. So there's some element of Cass ganging up on her, and then coming to see by the end of the tell-all, oh, well, maybe she's not who she portrays herself to be.
Very interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. So some interesting stuff there. We'll see how that plays out. I have, before we move into self-quarantine edition, I do have some tell-all tea about Stephanie and Erica, which is this is hot piping tea, is that they are barely on speaking terms, in real life and on the tell-all. It's not pretty, you guys. And
I just felt the singe. That was a little little too hot.
I spilled that on you, agency.
It might be piping, but it's not shocking.
No, yeah, Erica.
The way their episodes go, I'd be like, yeah, I don't think they would be on.
Well, a lot of you guys are asking, are they still together? And not only are they not together, but they're not even speaking to each other, and that continues. This sort of antagonistic fighting with each other continues throughout the tell-all, and it's ugly between them. So that will be interesting. We already talked about the cast gangs up on Ed and, hails Rose. There's some argument between Ed and Rose as far as like the accuracy of what occurred after Ed comes back to the United States. As far as whether they, tried to get back together or not. But the tea that sort of came out of this is no, they are not together. So we'll see if that continues.
Again, not shocked.
Not shocking, but people are asking.
I think this is one of the first seasons that everyone bites the fucking dust.
Except that we know Lisa and Usman are married, and I can tell you,
right, but doesn't mean they're still together.
True. Other than so we saw Jeffrey propose to Varya, and we're not really discussing them, but we don't know if Varya said yes. I can tell you that there is a proposal amongst these couples.
Do you want to hear tea I might possibly have on this?
Yes.
The tea is that she says no.
Oh. Ooh.
Again.
I can't wait for this tell-all.
Again.
This might actually be one of the better tell-alls because it is filmed. We always talk about one of the complaints we have about tell-alls is they're filmed so early in the season before all this real life stuff happens. And the other complaint is that Sean Robinson, as the host, doesn't ask the right questions.
But I feel like we're gonna get a more hardball,
a little
tell-all.
Thank God.
And it's gonna be a little more. I'm gonna say the word spicier. It's gonna be. I think it's gonna be one of the better ones because they've been really tame. Like after the season 7 of 90 Day Fiance one, where they basically had a campfire and roasted marshmallows.
Yeah.
Like this one, I think is actually going to start digging in and being a good tell-all. So I'm excited. I don't care if it's on Zoom, Skype, whatever the hell it was. Yeah, it's going to be good.
Listen, season 2 of Before the 90 Day was individuals over Skype and then 5 minutes all together. That was a good tell-all.
And this is one cast that I would have liked to have seen in person because of how volatile that it gets. And so
I don't know, because I'm wondering if them being comfortable in their own places actually made them easier to either, I don't know, go after somebody or speak for themselves. Like when you're in person,
True.
Sometimes, you're sitting there, you got the cameras on you, you've been isolated from your favorite device. And this one, they get to sit in their couch, and some of them probably aren't even wearing pants. So I would totally think that the outcome would be better.
It's Ed, right? Ed's the one who wasn't wearing pants.
Ed is probably not wearing pants. I could totally see that, and I can see Stephanie probably not wearing pants. And
well, who we don't know if they're wearing pants or not is Jeffrey and Varya, because they are not there. So Jeffrey was uninvited from the tell-all, or not invited, I guess you could say, because they
probably just not
invited
included,
versus invited and then uninvited. And then Varya, they asked to come, but she wouldn't come without Jeffrey. So
that makes sense. Like it seems like despite what their ending may be, rumor is that she says no, but we will see. I think that
who says that's the proposal I was talking
probably
about?
What'd you say?
Who said that's the proposal I'm talking about?
Oh, what do you mean?
I'm just saying there may be another one that's coming.
Okay. Well, that's too many proposals for me to keep track of. So
I'm just saying.
I will see when we see.
Okay. And then when we watch the tell-all and you go, Katrina, you were right again. Then
maybe I'll have to understand what you're talking about first, and then I'll come and say if you're right.
I'm just saying that amongst all of these couples, there's a proposal.
Yes, there is.
And I'm not talking about Jeffrey and Varya necessarily.
Gotcha.
Anyway,
I know.
so yeah, so Jeffrey and Varya. So why Varya may not be there? I mean, we know she's not there, but you're discussing why she wouldn't
Gotcha.
be. Did you have anything else on that? On why she might
Nope.
not? Okay. Agent C, anything else on that before I just want to talk real quickly about the self-quarantine edition.
Nope, let's go on. Let's get into that hot mess.
We just real quick, Darcy and Stacy try to have a spa day, are a mess. Darcy puts on what appear to be 2 completely different fake eyelashes, and it's a hot mess when she takes her selfie with her girls, and it's just a mess. That's it. That's all I have to say about them. Caesar and his fake girlfriend, and then he took a sock off, and I threw up in my mouth a little or a lot. Your mileage may vary. Thoughts?
So here's the fun thing is I missed the whole foot thing and I did not rewind to go see it.
Good. Yeah. I completely averted my eyes and I did not watch it because gross. TLC, you motherfuckers.
Something saved me. My kid wanted something. I turned and I must have missed it then. So someone was looking out for me and my eyes.
And then you found his fake girlfriend.
Yeah.
Who appears to be thirsty as hell, and we don't believe that is real, and we also don't believe that he actually went to Ukraine and met Maria, and those pictures just magically disappeared off his phone.
Right. Or another theory, he did go see Maria. They took pictures, but Maria wouldn't give permission for those to be used. It's another loophole, right?
Yeah.
So if he went all the way out there and he met her and she wouldn't, what would you say, like sell the pictures to TLC to show or something like that, then they can't use them anyways.
Yeah,
magically disappeared.
I don't think he
buy it.
actually went out there. And I think that this girlfriend he's allegedly having a date with that he hasn't met in real life anyway was just an online person he met. I think she was just hired for the show. Or he pretended like he hired her personally or the show hired her. That's my thought.
Right. He talks to her probably. Who knows?
We haven't really investigated that.
He talks to some weird...
Agency, any thoughts on Quarantine Edition?
Stephen and Olga's segment was very sweet.
It was very sweet.
Yeah, it was.
It was one of the most realistic ones. I'm like, yep, their house looks kind of, quarantine wrecked. Their kid is running around in circles. That's realistic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She's smelling his armpits.
Yeah. I also want to say that, I think to a certain degree, TLC kind of did Steven a dirty on his season. But between What Now and the self-quarantine edition, we've kind of watched them grow, and they've turned out to be quite a good couple, and I'm very happy for them.
Good. Mm-hmm. Cool. Yeah, I agree. And I am still really enjoying self-quarantine edition despite the foot thing. And I'm very angry at you, TLC, for that. So, quick social media roundup. Previously reported on several outlets that Rebecca and Zied of Before the 90 Days last season got married. And a new picture has recently surfaced of them out shopping, and a fan stopped to take a picture with them. So that's sort of confirmation that he is here in the United States. Stephanie's back on social media, and Ash came back on social media, and he came back with an 8-minute long IGTV video on something that I honestly haven't watched. I think we covered all the tell-all tea. Do you guys have anything else from social media or tell-all?
Nope, I don't think so.
Okay.
I'm watching you, 90 Day Reddit. I'm watching you.
He's going to keep you in line.
I'm coming for you.
You are Reddit eyes, because I try to go in there and I get overwhelmed or distracted by the other Reddit pages that I follow. I'm like, actually, there's some pictures over here. Oh, is that cake? Yeah. So
Ooh, something shiny.
I can't keep my attention span in Reddit. I'm all over the place in there, so to step out.
We mentioned our Patreon earlier. That's Fraudcast, or patreon.com/Fraudcast. I want to say hello to our new patrons that have joined, and that is Melanie, Allison, Amber, Samantha, Sarah, Jane, Stephanie, Nicole, and Andrew. And maybe Pat. I don't know if I got you last time, Pat. Thank you guys. That's both $3 level and $5 level. You guys are amazing. That's awesome. You can join our Patreon and hear us talk about other reality TV shows. We do some bonus episodes over there, and we've got a lot of new stuff that's coming. We have a $3 tier or a $5 tier. You get the same content for both, but the $5 tier, I will also send you a one-time gift of some Fraudcast stickers. Shameless self-promotion. Hanekawa.
All right. So the only thing I got to promote is my Instagram. So you can find me at 90 Day Fiance today. I always say that's where I dwell. That's my only place of content.
All right. Agency.
You can find me on my website, askthevisaofficer.com. There's a contact form if you want to ask a question about the show. Or you can request a service related to your specific visa issue. If you want to talk about stuff not related to the show, I lurk around on the 90-day Reddit. Come find me. It's not. I have a flair that reflects who I am. So intrepid Reddit sleuths will figure it out.
If you know Reddit, you know what flair is, and you know what all that is. It'd be easy to find them.
Yeah.
Right.
Otherwise, I hang out occasionally on the Fraudcast Patreon Discord.
All right. Thank you. And I am Katrina. I'm frauded by TLC on Instagram and Twitter. But I hang out mostly on Instagram. I am closing in on 100,000 followers, you guys, which is amazing. And I'm going to plan a big giveaway at 100,000 followers. I don't know yet what that is going to be, but that will be coming. Tell your friends. I also do Frauded Night Live every Friday night at 10 p.m. Eastern. We talk about the gossip of the week, and then we move on to talking about just other stuff, anything, related, anything related to the show. We all, just for those, so we talk about show-related gossip in the first hour, generally the first half hour. It's not usually enough to cover a full hour, and then we move on to other topics. So if you come in late, we're talking about stuff other than the show. That is why. And I think that's all we got for you today. And thank you so much for joining us. And we hope you're staying safe and staying home. And we are the Fraudcast, and we're dumpster diving, so you don't have to.
This Fraudcast has been produced and edited by yours truly. Art by Sarah Dawdy. Music written, produced, and performed by Umami. Further assistance provided by many unnamed fraud consultants.